I want to say a few words on Jordan Peterson's message to Muslims. What are my thoughts on it? Well, okay, I'm sure you've all watched it by now. I think it's about seven minutes long. Jordan Peterson made a bunch of messages to different people, to CEOs, a message to I think to Christians, to other people, and to Muslims. And because he has a very strong Muslim following as well, right? His message to Muslims, for someone, I am a fan of Jordan Peterson, but I have to say his message was abysmally appalling, and it just, I don't know what on earth was going on there. It seemed so artificial. It was very condescending. It was just so ill-informed, and it wasn't even, it's not even, I mean, it's ill-informed, but it was so superficial, which was completely not like Jordan Peterson. This is the shocking thing. I mean, he's somebody so profoundly intelligent that when he's asked questions, he'll say, well, that's an incredibly complex and complicated question because it has a lot of moving parts, and he goes into all of. So his message, very briefly, was that, look, Muslims, he was grateful that Muslims have this dynamic and this relationship with him and follow him. But he felt that, right, Muslims need to stop fighting amongst themselves. They need to stop this Sunni Shia divide, Sunni Shia fighting, sectarian hatred and fighting. They need to start loving one another. They need to start loving the people of the book, the Christians, and God forbid, start loving the Jews. And, we have the Abraham Accord, which he mentions the Abraham Accord, and so we need to perhaps take pen pals from different sects and different faiths to realize that the true enemy is not the people of Scripture, but the enemy is the enemy within. And that was the gist of the message. And the message was so condescending. Yeah. It was just so, what? Read, and it felt like he was reading it out. This is what it felt like. It wasn't like how he normally speaks, with just a natural vibe. It was very artificial. It was imposed. I personally felt that maybe it was written for him and he just read it. And I think part of that may have been because I know he is moving towards, he has joined the platform, the Daily Wire, and I'm sure there's certain agreements with things like this because, you see, joining these platforms that then extend to you an abundance of wealth. You see, they give you, let's say, millions potentially. I don't know exactly how much they've given him, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking in the millions. I'm assuming, which then frees him up to do, or at least in what nears these kind of astronomical figures, which is to free him up from relying on other streams of income. But then, like anything, it comes with a price. There are no free lunches. So you have to pay these prices to just do certain things. And I think maybe part of that was to say this, to it just, you see, I guess the underlying message, one could say, well, the underlying message, I guess, sure, I mean, that's just a message of saying, look, people have less discord and disunity amongst yourselves, and let's move towards compassion and love, which I think is a wonderful message. But it's just the way it's being said with such super simplicity, and not simplicity, simplistic means. Well, for example, the Sunni Shia divide, the way everybody knows that it is less so about Sunni Shia and it is more so about politics. It is about Iran. It is about the neighboring states. It is about Iraq. It is about the vacuum that was created. It's more political. The issue, I don't mean the Sunni Shia issue is political. Sure, I mean, that's a different kind of politics. We're talking about historical politics. But I mean the tension that is in certain parts of the world is more a consequence of politics than it is of theology. So there's been ISIS and so on and all these things, and it's not about, oh, hey, it's Sunni Shia. Sure, I agree that there should be more harmony, but to say, well, guys, stop it now, behave. Oh, stop it. Oh no, this is what the hell are you on about? And to say, look, come on, Christians ain't your enemies and Jewish people ain't your enemy. But Muslims have never felt, I'm not saying there haven't been times when people have been warring, but by being a Christian, you are not an enemy of Islam. The Quran says they are Ahlul Kitab. They are Aqrabun Nasi Mawadda in terms of compassion to you. From the scriptures are these people, the people of the book. Muslims have always had a very close um, bond of a societal bond with Jews and Christians right from the time of Banu al-Abbas. They've been very close. Sure, there's been there's been differences as well. There's been wars as well between Christendom and Islam. Let's say the Islamicate, so to speak. But there's also been close ties of friendship. There's been intermarrying. The Quran says you can do these things. You can eat their meat. You can intermarry. These things have always been there. Even with the Jewish people, there's been for hundreds of years Jewish communities still living today in Morocco that migrated from Muslim Spain, chose to migrate to the Muslim lands. There's centuries old Jewish communities living in Iran. The issue with the Jewish Muslim dynamic is not faith, it's Israel, it's political, it's the Israel-Palestinian issue. That's what it's been. It's not been. So if you went back, let's say, into the 19th century, backwards, you retrospectively, you wouldn't find this issue because the nation states hadn't fully been divided and Israel hadn't been created. So, okay, right, so for somebody so intelligent, surely you understand, because there's the geopolitics, the sensitivities, the complications. It's not just about, hey, let me write to a pen pal, say, oh, hey, my Christian brother, hey, my Jewish brother, hey, my Shia brother. This is not what it's about. That's not the issue. Isn't that they don't have, sure, I mean, maybe some people don't have a medium to connect, but that's not the issue. You could easily find, if a person wanted to find a Christian community, you could just go on Facebook and type in Christian communities near you. It's not that's not difficult to find. You don't need a pen pal system. It's these things are there's so much strata to all of these complexities, which are deeply nested in power structures and nested in abuse and a long history of this kind of turmoil, which is a consequence of colonialism. So to say, for example, the Muslim world needs to, a lot of it needs to pull its act together. The Muslim world is in a state that it is, I'm not saying entirely, but undeniably an element that must be factored into that equation, that today where Muslims are, is that their resources were robbed and stolen, and they had their territories pillaged and raped by colonial powers for between 1 to 2, 300 years. You can't deny that. I'm not saying that's the only reason. That's not sure. Since independence, Muslim these countries, some have done well and some haven't, and once again politics plays a role, but some, and then there's a lot of corruption and people. I'm not saying it's solely, but it's an undeniable element that we can't just ignore this element and say, well, the only reason why let's say Muslim countries are in a mess is because they can't get over Sunni Shia. That's stupid. I mean, you could take many tribes in Iraq have been they in fact, I was speaking to someone about the Jabur tribe in Iraq. That's apparently one of the large tribes that is a synthesis of Sunni and Shia intermarriages for centuries, and this is why it's a very noble tribe. I was being told and explained to. So it's not that Sunni Shia, these are the issues why we're so behind. Sure, maybe some people, they are behind because of this, but this is not why the countries are behind. So, for example, Pakistan as a country, so you will get, let's say, some mad mullahs and some Mulvi kind of people that are like totally obsessed with sectarianism and dogmatism. You will get that. But that's not why the country Pakistan is stagnating, for example. The country is stagnating because of other reasons. And amongst it, you get these elements as well. So I did find the message overall very condescending, very simplistic, completely misplaced. And it was, if anything, it was such a disservice to the legend of a genius who I feel Jordan Peterson is. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I did see some people reacting, saying, "Look, come on, look, Jordan Peterson, is a, you get some people. Jordan Peterson is racist." I'm like, I don't know. I've not seen him ever say anything racist. I don't personally believe that he's racist. I don't believe that. Some people say, "Oh my God, he's far right." I don't personally believe he's far right, although people on the far right naturally may find some take meaning from his words. But we take meaning from his words. Everybody takes meaning from his words. To me, I think the reason why Jordan Peterson is who he is today, there's a number of reasons. One, the man is undeniably gifted by God for his expression and articulation. Nothing. I mean, you watch that debate with Susan Blackmore and Jordan Peterson. She is clearly, like that. You can clearly see her body language expressing. She recognizes her inferiority in front of this guy. I mean, he is just like a juggernaut to debate with. You could not. I mean, you just feel, a person would feel so inferior just speaking, being on at loggerheads with this person, just because of the genius that he's gifted. So, okay, this is one reason. Sure, there's that. But I don't think that's for people who appreciate that. But the main reason that he's so popular amongst people, one is he's empowered people who have hit rock bottom. He has empowered them. That he's told them to make something out of their lives, especially men who are who feel so undervalued. And this comes to the next most important point. You see, people like why, and you're getting, you have Andrew Tate, for example, who's arguably, people may say, a walking meme, but he's a genius, a marketing genius. Why is he so popular? Why is he so popular? There's a theme that is shared amongst these people, like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and some of these people. There's a theme, and that is that they have stood, or they have argued vehemently that in defense of, or whether you want to say in defense, but for the importance of being a man. Now, this, you see, don't undervalue these words. We are in an age where men are increasingly being silenced. And that is a catastrophe. Because ultimately, forget the wokeism, whether people like it or not, ultimately, men will be, just as a workforce, will be the backbone of a society. Now, the fact that they're 50% of the of civilization, a point aside, but they will be the people that are working, doing all these kind of difficult jobs. Obviously, they'll be doing the other jobs as well, but I'm just saying this now to especially those that are lower down, which are the majority of the people. Majority of the people are, they don't have a voice. So they're being silenced even further. Now, this is why Jordan Peterson is so valuable to these people, because he's become a voice for what it means to be a man. That that they stand up for some meaning to be a man. Now, and I think this is what people are missing the mark. We are in an age where things are becoming so wishy-washy that where you get leaders stand up, even if they'll say ridiculous things, then like Andrew Tate, he'll say the most absurd thing, but it doesn't matter because he's standing up for something and he's exhibiting leadership qualities in an age where other people are not. So there you go. People flock around them. They gravitate to them. So these are the reasons. And the final part that why I cherish Jordan Peterson is that truly Jordan Peterson is the doorstopper for modern militant atheism. New Age atheism met its match in Jordan Peterson. And this is perhaps maybe not appreciated by many people, but those who followed the scene, the atheism scene, they know that. I followed it very closely. I followed Sam Harris. I watched most of all, if not all of his, or most of his things. I had followed Christopher Hitchens, watched all of his materials, Richard Dawkins, Dan Dennett, these four horsemen of atheism. I'd really closely seen that movement rise from 2010 onwards. The vigor, the strength at which it came, nothing could stand in the face of it. And people, you know what? I'm just being honest. People don't they don't acknowledge the genius of people like Sam Harris. The guy is a formidable machine. You just truly haven't. It's like, I guess, well, it's like a person saying, "Oh, well, he's nothing. What does he know?" The guy he was shredding people of faith. He was an unstoppable machine he's nothing but a genius. It's true. I mean, you have to give credit to the man, even if he is against faith. And he gave, in this day and age, one of the toughest. These people gave the toughest. Maybe people weren't watching this scene closely, so to them they don't realize it because they weren't following it. But if you are following it, these people, man, they really, they gave such a tough time to faith. And the only kind of doorstopper to that in the last 3-4 years was Jordan Peterson. He turned that around. There was a Copernican moment in our lifetime where faith all of a sudden is not embarrassed on the non-Muslim front. Not to Muslims kind of had their faith, and we're like a community within an insular community, so people don't really, they don't mix with us. We're just within ourselves. But on the greater platform within the West, it's now not embarrassing to say you believe, where it was. But with the rise of in the last 4 or 5 years only, And it's interesting, even in a discussion where Jordan Peterson is asked that who has been your toughest adversary, and he says, I don't think of them like that. But then he says, well, if I had to use that word, he said, I'd probably say Sam Harris, because he says that the man is a genius, and he truly is. But you can see in that debate, it was like WrestleMania 6. When I was a kid, it was like Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. It was like so these are the reasons why people celebrate these figures. That said, his message, like I mentioned, to Muslims was completely it was embarrassing as hell. It was so patronizing, and it was offensive, if anything, but it was what it was. People say, oh my God, boycott Jordan Peterson, boycott him, boycott him. Grow up, look, he's going to say whatever he wants to say. He's a grown man who's independent. Sure, most likely he was fed what to say and he was reading it, and it was probably stemming from some agenda that was people say it's linked to Ben Shapiro, and it's linked to the normalization kind of efforts between Israel and the Gulf states and the Arab states. And it may well have been, as in at the very periphery of that. So he's just being paid. Look, you've got many Muslims watch you here, say something like this, and because he's getting money from them, he has to say it. So it is what it is. And people say, well, but I would just say, look, you take the good, you leave the bad. And we don't need to be as reactionary. That's all. Cool.